Hello everyone. This has been quite an interesting period, me doing all these videos. It's like back in the old days. I meant to have quit YouTube, but I have had more time to do some videos, as you could probably imagine. Yes, after making the filler pipe look really nice, I move on to the next few jobs. And one of the main jobs actually this winter for me, completely off camera, or at least some of it will be, will be 50 Shades having the rear suspension redone again. You might think that's absolutely mad, but the truth is I did that suspension 6 years ago now, during COVID, well, just a bit before COVID as well. And I wasn't happy, and I've never been happy with some of the aftermarket bits that I've put on that car. And what's dawned upon me recently, especially with David's car looking amazing at the NEC, is I think I need to get hold of some of these parts now before it becomes impossible. And that's the theme of this this episode, is what is really killing Mark 1s. Is it due to rust, or is it parts? That's the biggest problem. But what I'm going to do with 50 Shades is rear suspension and brakes. You know, those drum brakes are doing my head in. The handbrake just about past the MOT, but it's gone off again, and I'm going to redo the whole thing. One of the worst things I did actually is I fitted a Febby handbrake cable, because the original was absolutely as crunchy and nasty as hell, which they are at this age. I mean, this has still got the original handbrake, and touch wood, it's all right actually, probably because it's discs, and they work more efficiently. But I've heard some really bad stories about those Febby handbrake cables, and I managed to find a genuine Ford drum brake handbrake cable, because obviously they're different from discs or drums. And that was a needle in a haystack. I can't believe my luck. And I thought, that's it. I'm going to do a lot of things now. That's triggered me to actually do a lot of things. Everything will be done at the back again, including all new bolts, because the bolts are the hardest things to get these days, including the subframe bolts. I am actually contacting a manufacturer to sort something out, and I'll come to that in a second. But 50 Shades will get a lot of work, and I think one of them pieces, strangely, will be a new rear subframe, because 50 Shades subframe is not brilliant, I have to say. I made it look good, but it needs a bit more work. So it's got to come off to have a bit more work. But that's not going to go back on 50 Shades. There is a member who might be having that subframe, and he can have it for all it's worth, and to help him with the cost of his rear suspension job. So you'll be finding out that soon in the future. So 50 Shades will have an aftermarket subframe, and they are made exceptionally well. Unlike many aftermarket parts, the front and rear subframes are made very well. I'm contestant to that. So 50 Shades will be getting that, and because it's, you know, not used in the wet, I can justify doing that. It's one of the few aftermarket parts that are actually going to go on 50 Shades. Apart from that, it's all genuine stuff, and it's going to be fun. But 50 Shades may not be on the road next year. I may do a hopscotch where I bring it back. So this year 50 Shades is back for some shows, next year not. Basically, I'm rotating my cars. I can't really justify to have all 3 cars operational at any one time. And Ruby, she will probably disappear for a couple of years, and hopefully I can get her to 40, that magic number of 40, for tax and MOT exemption purposes. So the biggest problem with Mark 1s, in my opinion now, is not rust. We all know about the rust. We know where they can rust. We know how to deal with it. And as long as your Mark 1 isn't ridiculously bad in terms of the rot, and I think most of them examples now have gone. They've left us, and most members of the club have really decent models. They've all got niggles, but nothing that can't be repairable with finances. Obviously, anything can be repaired. It's just the value of money versus the value of the car, and that's why they're going to be very rare cars in the future, because we're still seeing a lot of people move them on with the tiniest amount of work. We have to understand that these are now second cars. These are not first cars no more, and the first car always gets the priority, because that's the car people need to work and commute into work, etc. Whereas, like Mr. Inc., to be honest. Whereas the classic cars, the cars in the garages or the second cars they are a luxury, they're not essential, which is what we have to remind ourselves. That generally comes back when it comes to high expenditure. You always think about what the priorities are. So it's a tough time at the moment for Mark 1 owners. But part-wise, it's a big problem. Mark 1s are relatively young in appearance, and despite the fact that they haven't really been accepted as a modern classic by the general community, I get that point. The NEC gave me that vibe incredibly so. A lot of people were interested, but not enough. We've only just started. And the biggest telltale sign of if a car has got to that classic status is the availability or the non-availability of parts. And this is the biggest problem Mark 1's face now, not rust. The fact that you can't get so many really crucial parts for this car now, or at least we are struggling. I do most of what we call the Parts Bible in the Mark 1 Club. Those are our members. I'm hoping you enjoying that, because those are my very words. I've had Matthew help me with a lot of the manual gearbox stuff and the clutches, etc., because that's definitely an area I don't know as much about naturally, having not owned those cars. But most of it I've written up into parts bulletins. So every single component that you need to know about on a Mark 1, I've written a paragraph, a lovely picture, the parts numbers, and a diagram, usually a very nice diagram of where you can find it on the car. Just in case you don't know where that bolt or where that fixing goes, what does that mean? So you can visualize it, and it's helped a lot of members, and I'm already starting to see the great thing about having that resource. But the only thing about that resource which is really limited is there isn't really much that you can get now. There are many items like service items, brakes. This is all well accounted for. But when I've been writing these parts guides, I've always pushed towards genuine if you can get it, or at least high quality aftermarket. So with suspension, it's Lemforda, it's Melee, it's Moog. Don't touch anything else other than them, to be honest. I don't know enough about them to recommend them. I can only go on what most members have fitted and what works. And genuine stuff if you can get it, but a lot of suspension stuff now, not really, and they're very expensive unless you're very lucky. Electrical components, we can get most switches. You can get a lot of genuine stuff, but you have to know the numbers, and once you know the numbers, you're laughing. That's why I say £10 membership of the club, that pays for itself with the Parts Bible. Forget the events, forget everything else. The membership of the club is paid for with £10, and I think a few members have said 10's too cheap. It could be 20, and you'd still be value for money. And it certainly is, because if you're not a Mark 1, if you're not a member of the club, you don't have access to these numbers unless you work at Ford. So you're struggling. You will struggle for parts. You're reliant on other places to get it, and you're not sure where to get them either. Euro car parts, they still supply a decent amount of parts for Mark 1, just about, but only really like service items like brakes. But this is the biggest problem, and this is why I veer towards either genuine or at least high quality brands. I mean, if we're talking electrical like fuel pumps, it's Bosch, nothing really less than that. Visteon for headlights and other bits of trim. Magneti Marelli. There's a few other names, but only the big names will do. And they are not cheap, but you can't buy cheap, because unfortunately there is an awful lot of tat on the market. Now that filler pipe is just an example of some of the stuff that can fit, but sometimes they just don't. So even the quality, even expensive stuff, the steering knuckles at the front, unfortunately, I've been the victim of one of those steering knuckles, fantastic, brand new, shiny. I've been the victim, unfortunately, of one of those steering knuckles blowing its thread when I was torquing up the pinch bolt. Not fun. Not after you've done all the work of pressing bearings in and wasting a lot of money. They got sent back for full refund. And this is my point. The aftermarket parts, a lot of people will say, Mark 1s, plenty of aftermarket parts. You don't need to worry. And people seem to have this perception about these cars that they're easy to look after because we've still got an abundance of parts. Whereas so many cars this age just don't even have that on the aftermarket. Like VW Golf Mark 4, parts for them are a bit funny from what I've heard from Wagman people. And I will tell you now that that's a false. It's a kind of a false feeling, because all these aftermarket parts, they're crap. They're utterly crap. They don't fit. They don't work for long. I mean, the amount of people who've put aftermarket power steering switches in. The problem is with that is you can still get genuine ones. It was the first thing I bought for Mr. Inc. First thing, genuine power steering switch, because that will leave you stranded, 100%. And that's good for another 20 years now. Crankshaft position sensors, genuine. First thing I thought about, that will leave you stranded. This stuff isn't going to be around to buy as genuine items for too much longer. I'd say in the next 5 years, stuff like that will be rocking horse poo. And then you're left in the hands of second-hand, which is a short-term solution because you don't know what they've done, like a second-hand power steering switch. Yeah, I wouldn't know how long that's going to last for. How long's that been in use? And then the aftermarket ones, they either last for 2 months or 5 years. That gives me no confidence whatsoever. And that is the biggest problem. I'm actually intent with power steering switches. The ECU needs that in order to keep the revs at a decent decent height when you're turning the steering, when you're basically idling at parking speeds. I've got this theory now to take off that plug and find the right size thread, which would be difficult for the coarse ones because there's 2 different threads. Get the right thread and bung it up with an O-ring on a piece of bolt. I'm not joking, because that would eliminate a failure. And this is the kind of stuff that you kind of have to think of with a Mark 1 now. So eventually we will be forced down the route of aftermarket, because the genuine stuff will just disappear overnight. For crucial stuff like that, that really will make me nervous. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing with both of my cars. Genuine as much as possible. Mr. Inc. might get the odd aftermarket. I tried it the other, but yeah, it doesn't work half the time. If you are forced down that route, then you've got a car that you can't use, you haven't got as much confidence in. And, you know, there are some bits like discs and brake hoses and pads, they're all right. They're quite decent. They're quite decent things on the aftermarket. And then there's things that are very specific. I mean, aftermarket MAF sensors, oh my goodness me. I tell you what, I've got five second-hand ones. One spare for this. I've got 4 for 50 Shades. I don't know why, I just keep collecting them. And there's a method to my madness there, because the aftermarket ones don't work, I'll tell you that. I tried 2 different ones. One of them was £100. They don't work. You put a genuine second-hand one on, and the car suddenly gains about 20 horsepower. The car was underpowered because the sensor wasn't reading correctly. And you just think, you can't rely on aftermarket stuff now. And we're okay in terms of covering service bits, but forget it. In terms of Mark 1's suspension bolts, we can get them usually with kits. I am currently speaking to a bolt manufacturer to try and get an almost perfect copy of the original rear subframe bolts, and I believe a couple of the front ones are also same as the rear. You know, the big bolts with a big thick washer on them. I'm having some made up, and if I'm happy and they torque up nicely during the rebuild of 50 Shades, that will be my club going to that organisation and mass producing them again, because you can't really get Ford ones. Genuine ones sometimes come up. They're 15, 20 quid each. Who's going to buy that? So I'm hoping that I can cut the costs and actually sell them to members. Stuff like that, bolts you have to have made up in general now. Mostly M10s and M12 bolts for suspension kind of stuff. Interior trim, you're joking. You can't really get anything, to be honest. I mean, this is another thing. You know, we can get the finished codes and the numbers, but really, honestly, you're staring down a cavern to try and get interior bits. So you have to look after the interiors. What you've got is what you're going to have for quite a while, unless you're very lucky. And we might have to learn about repairing stuff. This is where a different skill level is. You see, most Mark 1 owners have been very used to, oh, it's broken, I'll just order it, it'll come next day and I'll bolt it on. We're basically Mark 1 owners, and I'm the same as many of them. You know, we're just fitters. We're not really mechanics. We're fitters. You know, we've been too used to fitting. But as my experience goes with P6s, Ruby, you can't get some of the stuff. You have to repair it using fiberglass and fillers, and then spraying things up, and then metal epoxies, filler pipe, for example. Like I said in the last episode, if there's a hole, I may have to fill the hole with metal epoxy filler. It's stuff like that where you have to learn different skill sets, and that's not for everyone. So, you know, the perception that the cars are still too young is a joke, because you can't get parts of them. And there are so many cars, even younger than a Mark 1 Focus, where you can't get your crucial parts for. And I think, we're quite lucky in some respects, but it's tricky now. Gearbox wise, we're all right. We're very well catered for with clutches, etc. And there's plenty of IB5s knocking around. MTX sometimes not so much so, and Getrags is a bit of a special thing, but there are enough parts knocking around, especially second hand as well. The automatic boxes, you can get most service bits for them now, and the only thing you must not do is buy Chinese solenoids. They're not good. They're definitely not good. Again, Chinese parts coming into its own there. So my best advice after this episode is to try and get what you can. I'm doing the best I can for 50 Shades because I want that car to be as good as it possibly can be. So I am trawling through the parts. I am buying what I can buy. I'm spending a fortune now, because in the later years where I'm not having to spend a fortune when other people are rushing around trying to get something together, I've already done that and I've got all the bits. And I think anybody with a Mark 1 who's in this long term will be doing exactly the same. Obviously, there is a balance with cost and everything, but get the parts while you can, because this is why now a Mark 1 Focus, and I have to tell that to myself with Mr. Inc., I am fighting. I am fighting to keep this car as my main driver that is used most days, and I know it's not sustainable, but I'm going to keep fighting. And I've given the car the best start by delving into all the areas that I know that are going to be a problem. And touch wood, it's worked well. And that's what you should do. So, yeah, the world of Mark 1s. Not rust. It's not rust that you should be worrying about. It's the fact that you can't get important and crucial parts that are quality parts, and not ones that are going to fail and you're going to be repeating the job, you know, after a few months. And it's not limited to suspension either. There are some shocking suspension components and ball joints that are made of cheese. Yeah, there's just too much stuff that I see that is really, really poor. And I'm afraid, you know, buying cheap stuff isn't going to get you anywhere. And this is from the experienced person. Don't just listen to me. Maybe if you've got some stories, and this is where I invite people, put your stories in the comments of any parts that you may have bought for Mark 1 Focus or any other car that were really so bad you can't believe you bought them in the first place. And that was me with the filler pipe. I just can't believe I bought it, but there's no other choice. It's original or aftermarket. Genuine ones don't exist. Not for an estate. Anyway, leave your comments and we'll see what you have to say. Take care, everyone.